Now that we've entered in most of the information on our spreadsheet, it's now time to format it. We are going to change the style, the size, the color, and make this spreadsheet look a little bit more readable. Hopefully some of the things we'll do here will remind you of some of the things that we did in Word. So to begin with, select cell A1, and on the Home tab, we are going to look for the Styles area. There's one called Cell Styles. If I click on it, I get lots of options. For this, we are going to choose Title Cell Style for our A1 cell. Then I need to select A2, and we're going to change the font. So this should be Review, very similar. We're going to Calibri Light. So just like we would change font in Word, we are also going to take a look at how to bold something. So select A1 and hit your bold button. And while we're here, let me remind you that these words, Personal Budget Worksheet, are in cell A1. There is nothing in B1, C1, D1, or E1. They're blank. They're just bigger than the cell right now, so they spill out of the cell. Now, come back down to cell A2, and let's change the size of that text to 14 points. And come back up to A1. Let's take a look at font color. So, Home tab font area, just where it was in Word. If I click on the font color arrow, I see different colors. I want orange accent 2. Now, this title right here we just talked about is in cell A1, but I want it to be in the middle, the top middle of my spreadsheet. So I actually want to center it across all of these cells. So to do that, first I need to select cell A1 through N1. Now be careful when you do this. Make sure that you have a big fat cross. Big fat cross selects, skinny cross fills. So big fat cross, hold your mouse button down and drag across to N1 and let go. That'll select all of those cells. And then on the Home tab in the alignment area, there's a Merge and Center button. Hopefully this button looks a little familiar to the charts that you did in Word. So Merge and Center will make all of those cells into one big cell and center the text inside the cell. So now, if you notice, this cell is called A1. And there is no longer any other B1, C1, D1. They no longer exist. The next letter we have is O1 because everything is in one big cell. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do that same thing with cell A2 through N2. So once again, I want to select all those cells, big fat cross. I click in A2, hold my mouse button down, drag across to N2, and release. I look at my Home tab, alignment area, and find the Merge and Center button. I also need to go ahead and format monthly estimates, cell A2, with orange accent 2 font color. So now I'm going to continue to use cell styles to format the rows in my spreadsheet. So first of all, I'll select the row with the months in it, and I'm going to go to Cell Styles and find Heading 1 style. Next, I will select cells A8 through N8. I will apply the Heading 1 cell style as well. Okay, so next I am going to format every other row with a different cell style. So I'm going to start with A4 through N4, and the cell style for that would be 20% accent 2. Then A9 through N9, 20% accent 2. A13 through N13, 20% accent 2. A15 through N15. And I missed one. A11 through N11. Now I'll go back and I will format A5 through N5. This time I'm going to do that slightly darker, so 40% accent 2. A10 through N10. A14 through N14, and A16 through N16. And then the total rows, I'm going to use total cell style for that. Now I'm going to select range B4 through N4, and this time instead of formatting with colors, I'm going to look at the format of the numbers, what the numbers look like. So to begin with, this row I want to have the accounting number format. That's the $. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Then I'm going to select B5 through N5, and that's going to have the comma style. And then B6 through N6 will have the accounting number format as well. B9 through N9, we want the accounting number format. B17 through N17, accounting number format. And B19 through N19, accounting number format. So the next thing we're going to do is adjust column width. So if you remember, columns run up and down. They are labeled with letters. And to change the width, we need to look in the area with the letters themselves. If we highlight that line between the column name, so between the A and the B, we get a two-headed arrow. So if I double click when I see that, so I'm going to do that between A and B, double click, it will resize the column to fit the text that's inside. So I'm going to do that, and I can do it with a bunch of columns at one time. So if I click on column B, hold my mouse button down and go all the way over to N, I can double click and it will go ahead and adjust it for me. Now we talked about this before, but this is where the names of our cells appear. So if you want to find a specific cell, you can type the name of the cell in this box and it will move your cursor to select that cell. So if I type in A3 and hit enter, it will select cell A3. That's important when you have a really big spreadsheet. For the most part, you can probably see most of your cells right now and can click on them. But if you need to find a specific one or want to double check yourself, you can type it in the name box. Okay, so next up we're going to look at adding a 3D pie chart. So to begin with, we want to select the first range we want to include in our chart. And in that case, it's going to be A9 through A16. Now, we do have to select areas that are not right beside each other on this spreadsheet. So in order to do that, after you select your first area, then you hold down your control key and you select the next area. So N9 through N16. Once I've done that, I can let up my mouse key, but you can see both of those areas stay selected. And you know what? You can use this when you're formatting cells too as well, this control key trick. Just the key is to make sure that you select your first area first before you start holding down that control key. So now we want to insert a chart. So Insert a chart will be on our Insert tab. And if we look in the chart area, you should be able to see one choice that says pie chart. So I will click that, and I'm going to choose the 3D pie. Okay, so next let's look at changing the title of our chart. So where it says chart title, I'm going to click and select that text where it says that and type in instead monthly expenses. And then I'll click off of that box so it'll accept the title. Now, next thing we are going to find are cell styles. So one place I can find that is the paintbrush over here on the side. But just like Word, when I insert something into my spreadsheet, I get two tabs up here, especially for that object. So here are my chart tools up here. If I click off of my chart, I have no chart tools. If I click back on, I have them. This is really, really handy, and a lot of us in class have been missing this. If you need to format something that you've inserted into your spreadsheet, look on these tabs first before you start right-clicking all over the place, because chances are what you need is right in front of you. So what we need is chart styles, which is on our design tab right there. So if I click my drop-down box, I can see some different styles. I'm looking for style number 5, which is this one right here. So I will click that and it will give me style number 5. Next, I need to move my chart to its own tab. So we talked about this briefly in the beginning. There are different sheets down here and each sheet has a tab. I want to move this chart so it's on its own sheet and has its own tab. So to do that, once again, I'm going to look on these tabs up here on my ribbon for what to do because I have my chart selected. And there is a Move Chart button. So if I click on that, it will ask me where I want to move it. Well, I want to move it to a new sheet, and I want to entitle that sheet Monthly Expense Chart. So when I click OK, it will automatically create a new tab down here at the bottom, a new sheet with my chart right on it. So let's go ahead and rename sheet 1. So to do that, I double click on the text and then I type in what I want the text to actually be. Monthly finances. Once I've renamed my sheet, now I want to give this tab a different color. So if I right click on it, I can find a choice for tab color, and let's go ahead and change it to orange. Okay, so I'm going to hit my save button to save my spreadsheet, and then let me show you a couple other things. We're almost done. I do want to draw your attention to the auto calculate feature. So this feature, when I select a row of cells or a column of cells, a group of cells, down here in the bottom, it will automatically do some calculations for me. It'll give me the average number, it will count how many things I've selected, and it will also give me a sum. If I right-click on it, I can actually see my choices. I could choose to have it show the minimum number out of that group or the maximum number. Let's go ahead and turn on maximum so you can see. So see there, it will tell me the maximum number in that selection. So auto calculate can quickly help you do some calculations. Also, we do need to know how to correct errors. So for instance, if say I need to change the word gas up here in this area, if I click into that cell, I can either choose to then click up here in this area to fix it, or I can double click so I can see my cursor down in the cell. So I could then type gasoline if I wanted to call it gasoline. So you can do it that way. Also, if you just start typing in that cell, it will overwrite anything that you previously had in that cell. If you need to clear a cell or clear an area, you can select it and use your delete key if you want. And then on page EX48, it gives you a bunch of other ways to be able to clear cells. So you can right-click on the cells and say clear contents. You can use a clear button, all sorts of things. I find it the easiest to just delete it out, but your choice. We are done with Excel Chapter 1. I do recommend, even though obviously you've just now watched the entire lecture, that you also go ahead and practice with the training. If you do both of those things, especially if you have limited computer experience, if you do both of those things, then hopefully these skills will be cemented into your mind and you'll be ready for class next week.